Let me start by talking about why I've chosen this to be one of our improvising studies. In study number 1, we focused on how to use repetition within the 12-bar blues structure to create memorable solos. In study number 2, we looked at focus notes. We also looked at the range of the instrument and textures. In study number 3, we looked at dynamics. What I want to do now is to develop your lick vocabulary, very specifically the last line of our 12-bar blues progression. That's measures 9, 10, and 11 for our 5, 4, 1 transition lick, and that's just simply a label that I've given it. No one else has actually labeled that area of the 12-bar blues. A lot of times if we're opening a song, we just say from the 5. But this is a very specific lick area we want to talk about. So many years ago I coined the term 5, 4, 1 transition. It's simply a lick that starts on bar 9 and resolves on bar 11. We also have a specific area of the 12-bar blues that's measures 11 and 12. That's the turnaround lick. What about ending licks? Those are very specific, right? So really that's what we're talking about, is I'm going to help you to develop where there are specific licks we can play. Let's go ahead and study them. Now, study number 4 here, we're focusing on 5, 4, 1 transitions. Study number 5 focuses on turnarounds, and study number 6 focuses on endings. Now endings, we only have one per song, but they're still cool areas within the 12-bar blues, at least the last chorus of the 12-bar blues of our instrumental. And at least it's going to happen once per song, so it's a guarantee. So you might as well have some cool ending licks in your vocabulary. So going back to our 5, 4, 1 transition, let's start with a definition. Where is that in our 12-bar blues? So let's take a look at a graphic image of the 12-bar blues. Now, when we get to our last line of the 12-bar blues, it starts with the 5 chord. And that's where our lick begins. Let me play the first chorus of our tongue-blocking study song number 2, Temperature. So I'm going to put our jam track on here. I'm going to play the first line. Second line. That starts with the 4 chord. Now we're back on the 1. Right here, we're now at the 5 chord, bar 9. And it goes from the 5 chord down to the 4 chord and resolves on the 1 chord. So if we're thinking, for example, let's just throw out a key of C. If our 1 chord is based on C, it makes perfect sense because C is the first note of the scale. So if I go C, D, E, F, G, C is the first note of the scale. Our 1 chord is built on C, so we call that the 1 chord. Our 5 chord, C, D, E, F, G, G would be the 5 chord, and it's a chord based on that G note, so that's our 5 chord. So we have the 5 chord, and it steps down to the 4 chord and resolves to the 1 chord. So I just want to focus on the idea of resolving. Resolving means the lick has a sense of completion. If I'm doing, it has a sense of building tension. And you can hear that 6th blow, my root note in 2nd position, gives me that sense of resolution. So if I play a C harmonica in 2nd position, that's the key of G. If I'm holding a C harmonica, that 6th blow is G. So if we're in the key of G, our resolution note is G. So in this case, our 2-draw or 6th blow that I just used. Now, if we go away from our root note, or we go away from our home chord, our 1 chord, we're basically setting up this sense of anticipation that I'm somewhere, I'm going to resolve. You might not know exactly when, but I'm going to resolve. So measure 9 again, we have the 5 chord, I'm away from my home base, we step down to the 4 chord, we're getting closer to our home base, and then we finish on our 1 chord, commonly on the 2-draw. So you might see a lick, for example, let me go ahead and take my printout here, a lick that looks like example number 3, this is on page 3 of your PDF, goes like this, 3, 4. That's the 5 chord, measure 9. Here comes the 4 chord, measure 10. And then the downbeat of measure 11. 1 chord, we've resolved. Listen to that again. We have now completed that lick. So be aware of the fact that that 5, 4, 1 is a very specific place that we will play a lick that will resolve on the downbeat of measure 11. What happens after measure 11? A turnaround. So let me take that example number 3 lick and go ahead and put that on my bar 9, or the last line of the 12-bar blues of temperature. So here I go again. I'm going to play the first 8 bars of temperature, and I'm going to stick in example number 3 here. Second line. Here we go. Then I might play a turnaround lick here. See how nice that sounded? But you may think, wait a minute, I've studied temperature. That's not what happens in bar 9, 10, and 11. And it's not, but it sounded great, didn't it? So what you're getting into the idea of is that 5-4-1 licks are at least 80% transferable to just anywhere that you might put in a given song. So I didn't play the 5-4-1 lick, bars 9, 10, and 11, from temperature. I just chose this random 5-4-1 lick, example number 3 from our listing, and it sounded great. So you'll find there's a good chance 80% of the licks that I've presented for you, and I've got a lot of licks for you, will fit in that spot. Some might be too active or not active enough, or maybe in the full instrumental it could be too flashy for the first chorus of the song, but they'll work. And that's the cool thing about studying 5-4-1 licks. And then turnaround licks, what will happen on the next 2 bars. So our focus here is to take that last line, what might be the AAB, the B in our AAB chorus form, or ABAC, our C, our last line in our ABAC chorus form, and saying, here's some really cool licks that you can play. Now, to put it straight, it is an element of a great player to play really cool 5-4-1 licks, and the same thing with turnarounds. It is a marking point. When I'm listening to students, I'm basically sizing a student up on what they need to focus on. Or if I were to, say, judge a competition in blues harmonica, when that 5 chord comes, bar 9, I'm looking for some licks that are very specific to that place in the 12-bar blues. Is the player just playing generic lick vocabulary, which can work, or are they playing really cool licks that are very specific to that 5-4-1, and the same thing for the turnaround? And that's just the mark of a great player, is someone who plays cool 5-4-1 licks. And that 5 chord, you've probably noticed in your studies, especially if you're going more advanced into your bending areas, that 5 chord is very tricky. The 5 chord requires a lot of tricky bend combinations, and that's one of our big focuses here in our study. So, a player that knows how to work that 5 chord well is really a player that is moving towards those most advanced stages. And as an improviser myself, as a professional player, whether I'm improvising on the bandstand or I'm writing songs, either for myself or for you guys, right before that 5 chord comes, I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to play something cool here. And I might every now and again come across someone else playing a really cool 5-4-1. I remember Mitch Cashmore came to the School of Blues where I record this one day, and I was recording him on a project for Mill Bay Publications, and he played this really cool 5-4-1. And I was like, wow, that's a nice one. And I had him play it a couple times, and that was on my little sticky next to my harp. So when I'm jamming with students, or if I'm on the bandstand, I put it in my harp case. Man, for a month, that was my favorite 5-4-1 lick. My goal was to overuse that lick so that it went into my vocabulary. And the interesting thing is Mitch said that Michael Peliquin, who has an interview on this site, that he just came from Michael's house and Michael showed him. So who knows whether Michael actually created that lick or he copied it from somebody else. So just be aware that's a cool area to do a great lick, and it is also an area that if you haven't focused on, this is what you need to do to go to the next step in your playing.